Fuck.
Axe. He's one of the most recognizable Dota 2 heroes out there, and he also happens to be one of the best position 3 heroes when played in the offlane position right now. Combined with his great laning, ability to farm swiftly and play tempo, spinning Axe the right way will let you cleave your opponent in half game after game, making him one of the top heroes to learn for the sake of gaining MMR right now. If you like content such as this, I'd hugely appreciate a thumbs up and a follow here on my channel. I produce content on a weekly schedule and you guys are what keeps me going. So what is it about Axe that makes him such a good pick in general in this patch? For starters, he's a really good laner right now. One of the biggest overhauls he's received recently is that of his spin no longer being dependent on a specific proc chance. Much like how Slaughterer got buffed with his bash being dependent on a certain amount of hits, Axe now too finds himself in the same camp, where it isn't a chance of him spinning anymore, but rather a flat number resulting in a spin or not. This makes him a lot more terrifying in lane in particular, because you'll know with guarantee how many spins you're able to pull off, and it won't be up to Lady Luck any longer whether or not you get a kill. Pair this change with the ability to reap permanent armor for the entirety of the game, and this scaling into the damage of his battle hunger now, and you're left with a burly red boy that can seriously decimate just about any team lineup. His call pierces BKB, he's a top tier blade mail carrier, and he's generally just a very scary initiator to be up against, when he's willing to take charge of a game and reap those calling kills, only making him progressively stronger the more kills he's able to ramp up. Pesky heroes such as Slark, Storm or Queen of Pain that rely on their movement to stay alive will find themselves particularly annoyed with Axe's ability to force them down, allowing him and his team to score some easy kills on them. Much like Axe can be a bit of a simpleton character wise, we're in luck when it comes to his skill build, because there's generally not too much variancy for our beloved red boy. Primarily, what we're looking for is to increase our damage output as fast as possible, with the easiest way to do so lying in maxing our spin as early as possible. Battle Hunger early will allow us to potentially score level 1 kill if we're playing aggressive with our team and fighting an initial rune battle, but will also be a tremendously big help for our position 4, because we're constantly going to help him provide damage to the enemy position 5. Call should be acquired at either level 3 or 4, since this will set us up for catching people on lane together with creeps, and allow us to generate those juicy spins that apply some serious damage, and is our main form of threat during the laning stage. Following this, we want to max the spin as previously mentioned. Pick up Calling Strike at level 6, before we max Calling for the increased duration, allowing us to hold people down for longer and acquire damage through spins plus Blade Mail, before finally wrapping him up by maxing out his Battle Hunger last. This build is fairly straightforward, and there isn't really all too much reason to ever deviate away from it all too much. As for his talents, I personally would recommend 10 Berserker's Call Armor at 10, 30 Counter Helix damage at 15, plus 1 armor per calling at 20, and lastly, double Battle Hunger armor multiplier by level 25. The 12% movement speed per active Battle Hunger can be significantly better in some games at level 10, and is arguably the only real choice that you have to make regarding skilling Axe. Keep it simple. I have some additional good news for you. Much like skilling Axe is pretty simple, Axe also has a fairly straightforward item progression, although with some variancy once his core items are down. So let's go over those important ones first. A first mention actually goes out to that of Ring of Protection for Axe. This might sound a bit strange, given that this is a hero that has permanent armor the more kills he scores, but this doesn't take away from the fact that Axe's armor in the beginning of the game is not great. He starts at only 2.3 for a strength hero, so if you're up against a position 5 or 1 that has a Blightstone, congratulations, you're now officially taking pure damage from all right click attacks that you're about to receive. So consider getting a bit more armor from the rings early game. Much like just about any hero in this meta, our first order of business is to acquire Magic Wand. This will fuel our offense and make us able to clutch out those spinning duels we're going to be taking. Our first important item happens to be none other than Vanguard. The item obviously fits Axe like a glove, and once acquired can make it nearly impossible for certain lineups that don't possess high amounts of early damage or magic damage to remotely deal with Axe in the first place. While heroes such as Slark can play around their passive to whittle Axe down, other characters that are popular such as Spectre or Gyrocopter will find themselves in a scenario where you're able to rub against their tier 1 and them with relative ease, allowing you to play crazy offensive from just having a Vanguard. Our boots of choice for Axe afterwards will be that of Face Boots. It adds a bit more armor to our early game, which we like a lot, but it's primarily a welcoming addition because of the extra burst of speed it provides us with, allowing us to gap close enemy players much easier before we acquire a Blink Dagger. Next up on the agenda is our beloved Blade Mail. It pairs just as well with Axe as Vanguard does, and is the fundamental reason this hero is as strong as he is. By method of using both Vanguard and Blade Mail, pairing it with our Axe Call, we're now able to make people hit and kill themselves. This makes us an extremely scary target for just about any player that decides to take a fight with us, but especially those squishy cores that don't possess much in the health department can find themselves dead by their own damage before they can break free from our blackmail call. Lastly out of the core items comes that of Blink Dagger, which ties the entire bundle that is Axe together. With Blink Dagger, we're now able to not rely on just menacingly running towards people anymore, but are able to grab kills from a distance, which completely transforms Axe's game plan. Vanguard, Blade Mail, and Blink Dagger are the 3 items that fundamentally create the core build for Axe in just about any game that you find yourself in, and you never want to find yourself without any of those, because they are what make Axe function as a hero. Following this core build, however, we're able to do a wide variety of things with Axe, which primarily comes down to what you want to do as a player in a game and what your team needs the most, so be wise about further purchases. A quick mention goes out to Axe's shard as well. It is absolutely mandatory. Do not wait on acquiring it from a tormentor, and try to have it purchased before minute 20 or 25 if you can. It adds a stacking debuff to enemies being spun by you, makes us spin more often, making us take up towards 90% less damage from enemies, making us practically unkillable for a short time after engaging with the enemy. The item I've had great success with recently, believe it or not, is that of Eternal Shroud. Axe has some serious mana problems that are not easy to alleviate at all, but an Eternal Shroud completely changes this, and makes us so much tankier in the process. If you're not getting Eternal Shroud, consider picking up Pipe of Insight for you and your team, assuming your opponents have a lot of magic damage in their team composition. Being tankier and more durable as the game goes on only makes Axe that much stronger. Assault Cuirass and Shiva's Guard are also 2 stable items to be had on Axe, as both of them provide a slew of benefits to you and your team, providing you with more auras that are massively beneficial, because as Axe, you're always in the front line. A final mention goes out to that of Aghanim Scepter. It's not mandatory in every game as Axe, but if you're having a good game and have claimed a lot of Culling Strike kills, you will see an absolutely ridiculous increase in tankability and damage done by you from acquiring it. You become insanely scarier, and you start applying the same amount of damage as a particularly fat safe lane core when you land calls on the enemy after finishing it. So now that we know how to build Axe, exactly how should we go about playing him from lane to mid game to potential late game? Early game, we want to be very aggressive. We're an offlaner, and we're a powerful one at that. And like I briefly mentioned before, now that spin is no longer based on chance, we're able to very calculatively fling ourselves at the enemy core to apply consistent high damage. Gauge what you're capable of doing with your precision 4, and find out whether or not you acquiring Vanguard lets you survive and kill on your lane. If push comes to shove and the enemy has the advantage over you, Vanguard allows you to easily farm back into the game and acquire those necessary items that you need for Axe to function. Once you've acquired Calling at level 6, put on your best looking Legion Commander mask and get to work. We want to slam as many people with Calling as we're able to, although not at the cost of acquiring our core items as previously mentioned. If there are people laning against you, play ruthlessly against them if you're able, and if you spot any chance of killing them, go for it, since it will net you permanent armor for the rest of the match. By roughly minute 17 to 19, you should have acquired the core items for Axe, which again is Vanguard, Blade Mail, and Blink. Start running with your team, smoke up, play mad aggressive, and score as many kills as you're able. Whether you're trying to push enemy towers and jump supports, or you're hunting the enemy position 1 in jungle, you need to be in a constant flow of aggression with Axe, with the only times you're falling back being for the sake of recharging mana, or making sure your Culling comes back off cooldown in case you missed a kill with it. Constantly apply this kind of pressure, and know that for every Culling Strike kill that you're getting, you're only becoming progressively more of a problem, much like heroes such as Slark, Legion, or Necro, having a number that permanently ticks upwards, rewarding you for playing in this fashion. If you keep this tempo up, take Roche together with your team, you'll realistically be able to push enemy high ground as early as 25 or 30 minutes in, and potentially end the game there, depending somewhat on the enemy lineup of course. While we can go late game with Axe, we would much prefer to end the game earlier, if possible. If we keep playing aggressive, constantly run towards the enemy, and never leave them any room to breathe, they won't be able to take down the tanky powerhouse that you've become from all that permanent armor you've acquired throughout the game. Axe really is good right now, and I simply can't recommend him enough. He's not that hard of a hero to understand, and once you get the proper hang of him, you'll have a hero that's seriously annoying to play against. Not to mention he's a beast at shutting down those slippery heroes in particular. If you're willing to give Axe a shot and add him to your roster of offlane heroes, I can much assure you that your MMR will see a great increase from doing so.